Dave.
Save the hands.
I'm sorry?
Save the hands.
Save the hands for what?
Save the hands.
Save the hands for what?
Save the hands.
Save the hams for what? It seems you're pissed or stupid. I reckon probably a bit of each. I've forgotten again. How do who? Who? Phil. Hello, Phil. Goodbye, Phil. How do Eric?
Well, yeah. About 10 to 12, you're talking about BBC producing serious programmes and no light entertainment. Well, I think that's absolute rubbish, because most of the best funny programmes on television are made by the BBC.
I didn't say they don't produce light programmes. I said I would want it that they produce more serious programmes than light programmes. You should pay attention rather more. But of course, someone that only ever listens to comedies isn't going to have the intellect to do so. How do Mike?
How do Alan? In the face of a gallery of appalling news reports from South Africa that fuel anti-white feeling, it is my belief that South Africa's white population should have the right to continue to inhabit the Republic of South Africa, along with the blacks, Asians and coloureds who currently are struggling for that right.
I agree with you. They should have that right, and they will have that right if they stop killing black people merely because they're black and actually introduce a democratic system.
But in order to continue, I believe that, unfortunately, you can't have one man, one vote in the country of South Africa, because were you to do that at the moment, then the potential voters, namely the 30 million blacks, coloureds, etc., would simply vote in a coloured government just to vote out the whites, which would be incapable of running the country in a capable manner, and therefore it could...
What do you define as a capable manner? Able to gun people down in the streets? Is that what you define as a capable manner?
No, I mean, in order to continue...
Will you defend the actions of the white minority?
I do not defend the actions.
Right, so we have got to get away from the wrongs that exist, and if that means that we injure one or two people's rights in retaliation, then I'm sorry, that is about to come. The white minority in South Africa have a choice before them. Unfortunately, they are such bigoted fascists that they do not have the common sense they were born with to see...
That is rather a sweeping generalisation.
Yes, but an accurate one. They are bigoted fascists by majority. By majority. That is the rule they want. They actually admire their troops that go out and kill black people because they are black. Now, their government does what it does because that is what the people want it to do.
Well, are you aware that 70% of the armed forces of South Africa are in fact black?
Yes, I am aware that 70% of the armed forces are in fact black. I am also aware that 90-odd% of the population are black. I am also aware that at this moment the white forces are manipulating a situation where the black victims of white oppression kill the black evidence of that white oppression. That is a very clever move in the short term. It is still a fact that the white minority in South Africa face a very clear choice, and they have not the nous to see that they have that choice, and that is that they surrender the powers they have to a greater body, or they have them wrest from their arms. And when they do that, they will be massacred in their thousands.
Well,
now they can at this moment. I'm not defending the actions that will follow their fascist dictatorship. What I am saying is they have a choice at the moment. That choice moves further and further away, becomes less and less available every day they continue with their fascist dictatorship.
Well, don't you think that there is a trend being spearheaded by P.W. Botha's National Party towards reform?
There was a trend, and they came back from the brink of that trend because one or two of the extreme right-wing bodies started to...
Party, yes.
Well, I'm not going to start naming names, it's not necessary. One or two of the right-wing bodies decided that they would discredit or attempt to discredit the View, and Botha lost his bottle. That doesn't take us any further forward. The truth is that I actually am prepared to believe that Botha believes it would be better for the country if they could reduce and ultimately remove apartheid. Unfortunately, he will never be allowed to do so, and will probably be forced to go in the opposite direction just to stay in power. That doesn't take us any further forward, as I said. All that matters now is that the South African white minority have a very clear choice before them. They either die for their fascism, or they die as a result of their fascism, or they come to their senses.
Well, if they did come to their senses, as you say it, and hand over their monopoly on political power in South Africa, then, as you have already outlined, there would be terrible bloodshed. And
I believe that if they did so now, there would be some reprisal bloodshed.
So
However, as time progresses, that only increases. It will not diminish unless they take the bull by the horns. We have seen it in Rhodesia, now called Zimbabwe, and white people are actually moving back to Zimbabwe now.
Because it is indeed stabilising.
It is stabilising. Yeah. And the black people that run Zimbabwe, and I don't approve of their method of doing it, incidentally, but the black people that run Zimbabwe actually acknowledge that they need the expertise of the white people, but they get it on a fair pay for a fair day's work basis. Now, that can happen in South Africa. If South Africa is agile enough, quick enough, and sensible enough to let it happen. But if they don't, they will be dead.
Well, don't you think that rather a slow move of rather evolution rather than revolution, which would prevent this great loss, because after all, South Africa is a beautiful country, it's a big country, it's a rich country.
No doubt about that.
It's big enough for all of South Africa.
Let me say to you, Mike, I agree wholeheartedly, absolutely, that the South Africans, the white South Africans, would prefer, if they must have apartheid removed, would prefer to remove it piecemeal, prefer to move it in a measured and orderly fashion. I would prefer that it was able to be removed in a measured and orderly fashion. They had that opportunity. They didn't take it. It's rather like the man who has a leak in the roof, and he looks up and he thinks, it'll be all right. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually the roof caves in, and he stands up to his waist in his roof and his water saying, I wish I'd mended the leak. It was right to have mended the leak, but there comes a time...
There's a great problem.
A massive problem. Yeah. But they will not resolve it by shoving their head in the sand and saying the black bastards can go away. We'll just shoot them in the backs. Yeah. Because it won't work. Some government somewhere, and I'm prepared to believe, although I have no evidence to that effect, but there are very strong allegations, I'm prepared to believe that at this moment there are CIA operatives and there are Russian operatives and probably one or two other operatives too, at this moment, negotiating with the blacks and trying to encourage the blacks, the bad end of the blacks as it were, but trying to encourage them to take their armaments so they can overthrow the government and bring an oppressive rule in another direction. And that will come unless the white South African government reduces, indeed succumbs to the inevitable. Because if they don't, they'll die.
Yeah.
And I don't really want them to.
Well, actually, I don't want them to either. I did indeed live in Durban for 2 years, and only returned at the beginning of the current troubles. And, it would be my wish to go back there, but at the moment I can't appease myself to the terrible situation that's going on there politically.
Fine. Well, I'm glad to hear that, at least.
I also think that your radio program's quite good, and so do all these snooker players in the Marlborough Snooker Club.
Goodbye. You're not allowed to do dedications. Hello, John. Thank you, John. How do, Peggy?
Hello, Alan. I'd like to talk about derelict petrol stations. On the 18th of March last month at noon, on a busy main road in Liverpool, there were two workmen and they were dismantling a fuel tank. And there was a terrific explosion which resulted in the death of one of the men. The other chap, he escaped by 18 inches. Now, there was police roadblocks and everything. There was thousands of vehicles diverted. And this particular station, it's been derelict now for a long, long time. Now, if the tank had been dismantled when the garage was first vacated, well, this poor man would still be alive today, wouldn't he?
But another one may have been dead in his place. The dismantling of the tank is a dangerous process, whether it is done immediately or indeed whether it's done later. In fact, I am prepared to suggest that there is an argument that says the longer you leave it, the safer it is to do it, because of course more of the fumes have escaped, or the opportunity for more fumes to escape has taken place. So when the thing has still got a load of wet inside it, that wet supplied by the petrol that's been in there, then it's full of fumes. And it's a very, very volatile commodity.
So when the newspaper described it as a petrol explosion, this was, this was the reason, what you give?
What reason?
What you've just said now? The build-up inside the tank?
No.
When it's wet?
What I'm saying, not when it's wet, we're talking about the moisture of petrol.
Yeah.
Petrol's a liquid, right? Now, petrol inside a petrol tank is a liquid. As they pump it out, obviously some evaporates. If you go anywhere near a petrol station, you can always smell petrol.
Yeah,
that is because the fumes of petrol are in the atmosphere. Now, they're also in the tank. Now, when they cease trading, there is always a small amount of petrol in the bottom of the tank. They can't get it out. You can never pump a tank to bone dry. Now, normally, that's okay, because you just simply put in more, and if you've noticed at a petrol station, there are all these tubes sticking up in the air. Those are the breather pipes for the petrol, so that when they put the petrol in, the air comes out. Now, if those get blocked, then there can be a build-up inside of fumes. And if heat is applied to them, then they expand, but there's nowhere for them to expand to. So the thing,
what he used, it might have been an oxyacetylene or something.
It might have been oxyacetylene, it might just have been a spark igniting one little bit of it, and then of course there's a chain reaction through all the molecules. But it is a volatile commodity, be it a petrol tank or a petrol station just vacated, or a petrol station that's been lying dormant for 20 years. It is always volatile. And the man obviously, I'm not suggesting he made an error, but the man obviously, accidentally probably, created a spark, and the outcome was that. I know of a case that happened in Rainford about 6 years ago. It was probably longer than that, actually. But there was a man welding a brand new Triumph Stag motor vehicle. It cost about 7,000 quid or something. And he was welding underneath one of those. It was brand new. It was about a fortnight old, and it needed a little job doing underneath. And the guy was doing, I think it was fitting a towing bar or something. And he just accidentally allowed some of the heat to go near the petrol tank. Brand new vehicle. It exploded and landed in the street.
Good Lord.
So petrol is dangerous. That's how it can run cars. Indeed, a car has an explosion every, let's see, if it's doing 6,000 revs a minute, 1,000 every... Oh, hang on, I can't do sums. Anyway, it's an awful lot of them. It works on the basis of explosions. It mixes petrol with air, and then you've heard of a spark plug. That is an electrical spark. Yeah. And that electrical spark causes an explosion.
Really, I suppose.
Anything could, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I was thinking in this particular case, Al, it could have been avoided. Why was it left so long? It's been well over years.
Just a moment. It could have been avoided, yes. Yeah. It could have been avoided by more care and by better protection, probably.
And the man would have been alive today?
Well, that man would, but the guy taking it out 20 years ago, whenever it was, may well have made the same mistake. So it would have still blown up.
Oh, it's understandable then.
Okay.
Right, Al. Thanks a lot. Bye.
It's 17 minutes to 1, time after the break, that is, for the melodic moment. And it's quite a good one tonight. Even I like it.
It's the place to come, where shopping can be fun. The Newmarket Waterloo Road.
If you want to shop for the real bargains, you'll be well advised to visit the Newmarket and M2 Market on Waterloo Road, Blackpool. They're over the road from one another, which makes shopping for bargains all the more convenient. But beware of imitations. When you've found the Newmarket, you've found the M2 Market, and vice versa. Shop at the Newmarket and M2 Market, opposite each other on Waterloo Road, Blackpool. They're the original, and they're still the best.
It's the place to come, where shopping can be fun. The Newmarket Waterloo Road.
Roll up. Visit Cleveley's new open market, Orion Social Club car park, Cleveley's. Every Wednesday and Friday now till October. 9:30 till 4:30. Thank you, Golf.
Tell me, fellow, art this fair citadel the abode of international Ford?
Yes, sire.
Praise the Ford! Merlin told me of their wondrous car deals, so thence did I travel over hills and dales, across raging torrents, murderous motorways, and the bodies of malevolent goblins with yellow bands round their hats. 'Twas all worth it.
International Ford's deals are so good, they're legendary. Call round to Garstang Road, Broughton, or phone Preston 862-601 and see for yourself.
Prithee, sirrah, how much part exchange on this horse? Only one owner, carefully galloped in, economical to run, only 10,000 leagues on the...
How would you like to hear your very own short story broadcast on Red Rose Radio? And win a handsome prize. In association with Lancashire Libraries and Sweeten's Bookshops, we're organising a short story contest in 3 sections: adults over 16, teenagers 12 to 16, and children under 12. The stories will be assessed by a panel of judges, and the winning entries in each section will be broadcast in a special programme in the summer. We want stories of 1,000 words or less, and if you want your manuscript back, please enclose a stamped addressed envelope. The contest closes on May the 20th and is open to anyone in the Northwest. Send your entries to Short Story Contest, Red Rose Radio, P.O. Box 301 Preston. Short Story Contest, Red Rose Radio, P.O. Box 301 Preston.
Have you heard about the latest offer at Tracy's Garage, Wigan Road, Leyland?
Ring him if you dare.
Allan Beswick, the late night show.
And the number on which to dare is Preston 561,000.
We'll make you laugh, we'll make you smile. You know you'll have some fun on Red Rose 301.
And you've got about an hour in which to telephone. Preston 561,000. The lines are currently engaged. Do keep trying. I'll do Rebecca.
Hello? I think that all these perverted assaults, attacks and rapes are increasing by the week, and I also think that all these pornographic magazines, page 3 and pornographic videos, are not helping at all.
Is it the requirement that they help? I mean, are you understating and saying that what you really mean is they're causing harm?
Yes, exactly. I think they are doing a lot of harm, and if I had my way, I'd scrap them all and flush them all down the loo. Because I think it is making perverted people more perverted.
How?
How? Well, they sell them in the shops, pornographic magazines.
Well, let us leave pornographic magazines out of it for the moment.
Right.
You talked about the page 3 girls. By that, I take it to mean half-naked women in newspapers.
Yes.
And go on.
What, you'd like me to make a point about them?
Well, I'd like you to, in some way, convince me that seeing a pair of breasts in a newspaper is going to drive even the most perverted human being to yet further depravity.
Yes, I think it can do. Because if they're perverted in the first place, seeing something like that, which can be obtained over the counter of a newsagent, I mean, it can just be obtained like that. I think they're just perverted. Perverted people get their hands on anything like that. I think it's going to make them more perverted. And it's going to lead to some innocent people getting attacked on the road because of what they've seen.
Well, I'm not actually prepared to agree with your suggestion although I do agree with your objective, and that is the removal of pornographic literature and also the removal of half-naked women from newspapers. The reason I want both of those doing away with isn't because I think it actually drives men to seek sexual gratification by force, but that, and much more important in my view, that it cheapens women. It is actually detrimental to women.
Exactly, but do you not think that it adds to the way the perverted assaults and attacks are increasing week by week?
Well, I've already stated, no, I don't, Rebecca.
You don't?
No.
Can I ask you why?
Because I'm not aware of any evidence that convinces me. I mean, indeed, I know of no evidence that convinces me.
Well, do you agree that pornographic magazines or pornographic videos do?
I don't think either pornographic magazines or pornographic videos would actually drive somebody to be more perverse. I think there is a certain perversion in a kind of person that wants to see those, and I'm also prepared to accept that a potential rapist or indeed a rapist would be of the nature that they would want to see such pictures and such videos, but I don't think the videos and the pictures cause them to be rapists.
Why?
Well, it's not the case. I don't think cheese tastes of banana.
No, but if I was walking down the road, fair enough, I could get attacked. Fully
Yes.
clothed, just walk into the shop.
Indeed, I accept that.
Fair enough, I could not get attacked. But if I was walking down the road naked and dancing, I would be more likely to get attacked.
That is, quite honestly, not altogether true. You're most likely to get arrested, to be honest. I also think it's a ludicrous example. The truth is that you believe that pornographic literature actually causes people to become rapists. I believe that that is unproven. I don't accept it as a scientific statement. I don't accept it in any way. I do accept that rapists would be amongst the people who would want to see such documents.
Well, then why do they not ban them altogether? Because it's adding to their perversion.
Well, first
Why
of all,
do they not do away with
Rebecca, the reason they don't ban pornographic literature is because they are not yet certain, indeed in no way certain, in no way even overly suspicious, that such publications cause rape. That is why they don't ban them. Now, you have a belief that they do. You are more likely to achieve your objective to have them removed if you can convince society that they are wrong for some more provable, more acceptable reason. And that is that they are detrimental and degrading to women.
Yeah, but now there you're holding the women.
Sorry?
You are making it that it's the women who are in the wrong.
No, I am most certainly not, Rebecca. I am not in any way. The individual women that actually perform the acts necessary, I don't even condemn them, believe it or not, because I believe there are very strong financial pressures on most women that get involved in that kind of work, although, of course, some women do it because they like it. Fair enough. We all have our own idiosyncrasies. I do not condemn women. What I am saying is I condemn men. I actually condemn them in the most violent terms you can imagine. As far as I'm concerned, pornographic literature exists for the pleasure of men to the detriment of women. I state that categorically, and I'm sorry if you've misinterpreted what I've said. However, don't go away. We'll be back after the news.
Rock News, this is Mike Carson. Police and intelligence officers hunting the terrorist who planted the bomb which ripped a hole in a TWA jet over Greece on Wednesday are now following two main lines of inquiry. Paul Tilsley reports from Athens.
According to several sources, police believe May Mansa, an alleged female Palestinian terrorist, occupied seat 10F on a previous leg of the flight and could have left the bomb. Also, because the captain at the time of landing didn't know a bomb had exploded on his plane, police did not meet it, and a man, still to be accounted for, was seen walking away from the plane. Both lines of investigation so far, however, have produced no results. Paul Tilsley, IRN, Athens.
Scotland Yard will today start cutting the number of officers authorised to carry guns. Tougher training is also being introduced, as well as more stringent checking of shooting skills. Here's Antonia Higgs.
The Yard's review of its firearms procedures springs directly from the mistaken identity shooting of Stephen Waldorf 3 years ago. Since then, there have been a number of other worrying incidents, including the wounding of Mrs. Cherry Gross, which led to the Brixton riots last autumn. The new measures mean that only 3,000 men in the Met will now be able to carry guns. That's just over 10% of the force. Training for all officers will be doubled, and there'll be more regular refresher courses for those who've been using firearms for some time.
Education Secretary Sir Keith Joseph is predicting most teachers will defy their union's boycott of the new 16-plus exam. Sir Keith was met with stony silence when he told the annual conference of the NAS-UWT Teachers' Union that the GCSE is coming this year, whether they like it or not. The unions say they don't want it because not enough preparation has gone into it. But Sir Keith says he's sure most teachers care too much about their pupils to try to stop the exam.
I think it's damaging to their members, who will, sooner or later, anyway, will prepare themselves because basically they're professionals and basically they want to help their children. And many of them have already prepared themselves or begun to do so. Many others will prepare themselves in the months remaining.
Former call girl of the 60s, Mandy Rice-Davies, has been introduced to Princess Anne at the British premiere of a film in which the infamous mistress stars. 23 years ago, Mandy Rice-Davies was at the centre of a sex scandal which rocked the government of Harold Macmillan. But tonight she was in the lineup of actors from the new film Absolute Beginners, who chatted to Princess Anne. Miss Rice-Davies described her character in the film as a lady called Ma.
Ma is a kind of randy landlady who is obviously married to the hero's father, and we live in Pimlico. She's a rather down-market character who runs a boarding house and has a couple of Maltese lodgers.
Independent Radio News.
Because your car ain't right for you. Bradshaw's Car Delights. New and used, they've got it right. Cars with dealer bill. Lowest prices, it's a steal. Bradshaw's have today 400 cars to drive away. So who you gonna call? Bradshaw. Yeah. Press 54083. There's a car for you with Bradshaw. Who's the biggest Ford dealer? Bradshaw. And where'd you get the best deals? Bradshaw. I can't hear you. Hey, Bradshaw's!
Right. Hello, Richard Selling here, inviting you to join me for another sensational soul special at the Halfway House in Clayton Woods. The date for your diary is Wednesday, April the 9th, and as well as the very best and latest in soul, there'll be lots of record company and Red Rose giveaways. So, Wednesday, April the 9th, 9 through 1, 4 hours of soul. I'll see you there.
If I had a choice.
Ring him if you dare.
Allan Beswick, the late night show.
4.5 minutes past 1, we're into the final hour, and you can ring us on Preston 561,000.
Red Rose Radio.
Now then, Rebecca.
Yes? Yes?
The floor is yours.
Oh, sorry, right. You're saying that there's nothing they can do because they haven't got this initial proof that it's...
No, that's not quite what I'm saying, Rebecca. I'm not saying there's nothing they can do because they haven't got the proof. I am saying that there is nothing they will do because they don't believe what you're saying.
Well, I don't understand you. What do you mean they don't believe what I'm saying? So what you're trying to say is they...
What I'm saying is the government does not hold the same point of view as you, that pornographic literature causes people to become rapists and other sexual offenders.
Well, how can they get the proof? What do they need to be proved?
What they need is some evidence to substantiate the point of view that sexual offenders are sexual offenders as a result of reading pornographic literature. Now, I don't accept that. The government currently does not accept that. and no amount of research has yet established that to be true to enough degree for the government to believe it.
Yeah, well, the only way they'll ever find that out is if somebody gets taken to court for a rape and they admit that that is why they...
No, even that wouldn't suffice, Rebecca.
That wouldn't.
No. It requires somewhat more scientific research than that. And there is a major problem in establishing such scientific research. It is likely, and you must follow this through to the end, it is likely that a rapist will at some time in his history, probably his recent history, or possibly, have been involved in reading and watching sexual literature, pornographic. Yes?
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the enjoyment, perverse though it may be, of that literature has caused him to be a rapist. And if you allow me to proceed with what is now going to seem to you to be a ludicrous statement, that same man, more than likely, throughout his life, has eaten apples. But that doesn't prove that eating apples causes you to rape people. Do you follow the drift of what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can prove...
No, I don't.
Well,
if today they can go to the moon, and know they can go to the moon, I'm sure they know that perverted people are going to be more perverted by watching a video.
Well, Rebecca, they don't know that, and the reason they can go to the moon is because they are able to establish that ability on sound scientific principles. But there are no sound scientific principles that support the point of view that you hold.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, can I make another suggestion?
Feel free.
Yeah. No, I don't exactly... I've forgotten the name. Is she called a Mary... Can I say the name?
Mary Whitehouse.
Yeah. She's the one who bans records with sexual...
Well, she doesn't actually ban them. She complains about them.
Well, why complain about such silly little things when there is more harmful things being done through videos?
The answer to that, Rebecca, is Mary Whitehouse complains about all forms of obscenity all the time. But she does complain about immorality in our society and about the immorality mainly in broadcast and in publication, because she's now the chairman-president of the Viewers and Listeners Association. So she voices her opinions on that organisation's behalf. But it is a very small organisation because not very many people have chosen to join it. So it has very little credibility. Indeed, the woman herself has virtually no credibility. She's regarded by the majority as a joke.
Yeah.
Okay?
But you say the government... Did you say the government?
Well, I must have said the government during the course of this conversation.
Yeah,
it rather depends on what you mean by your question.
You say the government will not ban these because they don't have enough substantial proof.
Yes.
They are the main ones. The government could turn around and say, right...
Well, they are the only ones. They're not the main ones. They are the only ones. Only the government can create law in this country.
They are, yeah. Well, then, surely... I don't know, I can't really say what I want to say. Surely, they must know they do not need proof.
But unfortunately, Rebecca, you do need proof. As I said, Rebecca...
But you don't. If they hold it, if they hold the law, they make the law, they hold the law, they can adjust it to how they want.
They can adjust it to how they want. Well, would you then, Rebecca, agree that the government should immediately ban the eating of apples?
Well, it's not causing anybody harm.
And neither is pornographic literature.
But it is.
It isn't.
Surely.
No, it isn't. If they banned apples, if they said in future you will not ban apples, people would say, why? And they'd say, because every rapist we've ever met, we've ever interviewed, we've ever put in prison, ate apples in his childhood, so it must be causing it. And people would say, don't be so bloody silly.
Yeah, but...
Well, they cannot just, although they have the power They do not have the right or the responsibility to implement laws on the basis of a group of individuals' beliefs. They have to think that that will work.
Yeah,
because they've got to go every 5 years or so to the electorate. And the electorate are not going to be impressed by a government that has banned something that later proved to have absolutely no effect on the number of rapists in our society. Rape and other sexual crimes has been with us long before the general availability and acceptance of pornographic literature.
Not as high as it is today.
Indeed, that is so. But unfortunately, that doesn't condemn such literature. It is readily available on the continent, but the figures for rape and other sexual crimes are not the same in this as in this country, and they're not higher, and yet that literature is readily available on the continent. More people, in Sweden, you can go buy these magazines in just about any newsagent. The hardest pornography.
Well, this is what I'm trying to say.
What is what you're trying to say?
Like as well as in countries like that, they can be obtained over the counter.
So, Rebecca...
A 3-year-old child can go and get...
Rebecca, if they were more readily available, and if, as a result of that availability, there was a greater preponderance of sexual crimes, I would believe you. But in countries where the literature is readily available, it is not always the case that there is a greater preponderance of these crimes. So your theory is injured.
I'm talking more so about Britain.
Well, you're talking about Britain now because you just got yourself a stuffing in Sweden.
Pardon?
I said you're talking about Britain now because you lost the point in Sweden. I put to you the point in Sweden and you were happy to talk about it until you realised what bullcrap it was turning out to be. So then you thought, well, I'm only talking about Britain. No. I'm sorry, Rebecca, you have lost, totally lost.
I haven't lost.
Okay, you believe what you believe. I'll make do with the truth. No more minutes, Rebecca. You've had a long time. Make your point and get off.
Right. Well, all I can say is that if the government is run by such Burks as there is up there who cannot see further than the nose... And
Rebecca, you cannot support what you say with science. Goodbye. How do, Paul?
All right, Alan.
Whoops. How do?
I was wondering if you could tell me whether there's a total eclipse in Blackburn when you're bent over in Preston.
No, I don't bend over in Preston. How do... I've forgotten your name. Tony.
Hello, Alan.
Well?
Hello.
Yeah, well, hello then. How do, Charles?
Hello, I'd like to talk about the age you're allowed to ride a motorcycle. Hello?
Much as you'd like to, you appear unable to, Charles. Goodbye. How do, Sarah?
Hello. I'd like to say something about the unemployment around Clitheroe in Lancashire. School leavers are often on the dole straight from school. And I've worked in a mentally handicapped home for the past 12 months where 2 vacancies for staff have come up. The other week I wrote to Lancashire County Council saying that we were willing to take someone on the YTS scheme, and they immediately wrote back saying that there was no school leavers unemployed requiring a vacancy. And I know for a fact that there are school leavers on the dole.
Yes, but those school leavers don't require a vacancy.
But surely if they're on the dole, what they were saying is there was...
Are you suggesting that they be compelled to do the work, Sarah?
No, I'm saying that
well, what are you
they
saying?
offered, they should be given the chance.
Are you suggesting that they've not been given the chance?
Yes, what I'm saying is that the county council, Lancashire County Council, which is Labour run, is lying.
Well, first of all, it isn't Labour run.
It is Labour run.
Unfortunately, you're wrong.
How?
Mathematically.
There are areas in Lancashire which are conservative.
What you said, Sarah, what you said was Lancashire County Council is Labour run.
Yes.
About 7 months ago, there was a major upheaval, and in actual fact, the balance of power was in the balance for some days, until eventually Councillor Mrs. Louise Ellman had to concede that Councillor Mrs. Pat Case was more entitled to take control as the chairman of Lancashire County Council than was Mrs. Ellman.
Yeah.
Lancashire County Council is now, with a minority rule, a Conservative council.
Well, I actually wrote to the social services, which is
that may or may not be the case. Yes, it is. It is operated by them.
they are fighting, as you probably know, to close down the mental institutions, such as Calderstones and Brockhall.
Indeed, but it is not the county council that are doing that.
Yeah, but...
Well, you make these allegations, Sarah. We have to have them accurate. It is not...